This is the story of the fearless woman who was known as the Jungle Queen. She was a powerful and respected ruler, and her influence over the jungle was unmatched. One day, however, the Jungle Queen fell gravely ill, and her entire kingdom was thrown into chaos. The animals were afraid that she would die, and that the balance of the jungle would be destroyed without her. But then, a wise old turtle offered to help. He told the animals that the only way to save the Jungle Queen was to find a magical flower that grew deep in the uncharted territories of the jungle. This flower was said to have healing powers beyond compare, and the animals set off on a quest to find it. The journey was long and perilous, and the animals faced many obstacles along the way. They encountered venomous snakes, roaring rivers, and thickets of thorns, but they pressed on, determined to save their queen. Along their journey, they met other animals who had heard rumors of the magical flower and were also searching for it. There was a nimble monkey with a sharp nose, a strong gorilla with a gentle heart, and a wise owl with keen eyesight. Together, this unlikely group of friends set off into the unknown, following the faintest of leads and the oldest of jungle lore. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the terrain became more treacherous. The trees grew taller and thicker, and the sunlight struggled to penetrate the canopy. But the animals were undeterred. They climbed over fallen logs, waded through knee-deep water, and pushed aside hanging vines, all in pursuit of the magical flower. After days of searching, the group finally spotted a clearing ahead. And in the center of the clearing grew a single flower unlike any they had seen before. Its petals were a vibrant blue, and its leaves shimmered with an otherworldly glow. The animals had found the mythical flower of healing. But just as they were about to pick the flower, a loud roar echoed through the jungle. From the shadows emerged a fearsome tiger, its eyes fixed on the flower. The tiger snarled, baring its sharp teeth, and warned the animals to stay away. The animals were afraid, but they knew that the tiger would not stand in their way for long. So the monkey, using its agility, quickly climbed up the tree where the flower grew. It carefully plucked one petal from the flower and then leaped down into the waiting hands of the gorilla. The gorilla then charged towards the tiger, waving the petal in its face. The tiger, blinded by the flower's glow, stumbled backwards, giving the animals time to flee. With the flower petal in hand, the animals raced back to the Jungle Queen's home. They arrived just in time to see her take her last breath. Quickly, the wise old turtle stepped forward, crushed the petal into a fine powder, and sprinkled it over the queen. As the first rays of sunlight hit the powder, it began to glow brightly, bathing the entire cave in a warm light. The Jungle Queen coughed, then opened her eyes. She was alive once again, thanks to the power of the magical flower. News of the Jungle Queen's recovery spread throughout the land, and animals from far and wide came to pay their respects to the brave heroes who had saved her life. The monkey was celebrated for its agility and quick thinking, the gorilla for its strength and bravery, and the owl for its wisdom and insight. As for the flower, it continued to grow in the uncharted territories of the jungle, a beacon of hope and healing for all who needed its magic touch. And so the Jungle Queen, surrounded by her loyal subjects, continued to rule wisely and fairly, ensuring that the balance of the jungle would be maintained for generations to come. The Jungle Queen's power was absolute. She commanded respect and obedience from every living thing that inhabited her domain. However, she was not always kind and merciful. In fact, she had a reputation for being ruthless and unforgiving. One day, a young and foolish monkey dared to defy the Jungle Queen. He stole a precious jewel from her lair and hid it in a secret stash. When the Jungle Queen discovered that her jewel was missing, she unleashed her wrath upon the jungle, demanding that the thief be brought before her. All the animals were terrified, but none were willing to betray the monkey, who had become a hero to many for daring to stand up to the tyrannical queen. As days turned into weeks, the pressure mounted on the monkey. who was hiding out in the tallest trees, surviving on berries and rainwater. But he knew that he couldn't hide forever. The Jungle Queen, spies were everywhere, and it was only a matter of time before he was found. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the monkey decided to make a run for it. He swung from vine to vine, leaping over streams and dodging sleeping predators until he reached the edge of the jungle. Just as he was about to escape, he heard a familiar roar. The Jungle Queen had found him. Terrified, the monkey climbed to the top of a tall tree and braced himself for the inevitable. But instead of attacking, the Jungle Queen spoke. "Why did you steal from me?" she asked, her voice echoing through the trees. The monkey hesitated, but knowing that he couldn't hide anymore, he confessed, "I didn't mean to, Your Majesty. I was just trying to protect my family." The Jungle Queen narrowed her eyes, but she could see that the monkey was telling the truth. He really had only stolen the jewel to protect his family from her wrath. Moved by the monkey's bravery and loyalty, the Jungle Queen relented. "You may go free," she said, "but you will never understand true power until you've experienced what it's like to be the predator and the prey." With that, the Jungle Queen vanished into the night, leaving the monkey to ponder her cryptic words. As the monkey made his way back into the jungle, he realized that the Jungle Queen was right. He had only experienced freedom from one perspective, but he had never truly understood what it meant to be the most feared creature in the jungle. Determined to learn more, the monkey began to train. He studied the movements of the predators, learned to hunt and track, and honed his instincts to become the best version of himself. Years passed, and the young monkey grew into a wise and powerful leader. He became known as the Jungle King, and his reign was marked by wisdom, fairness, and strength. The apex predator's growl shook the air. Her muscles tightened, her claws dug into the dirt, and her golden eyes locked on the strange human who had dared to come this close. No man had ever entered her territory and lived to tell the tale. Daniel stood still. He could feel the weight of her gaze pressing down on him. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run, but he knew one step back could be the end. He slowly opened his bag and showed his hands were empty, except for small bottles and tools. "I'm not here to fight," he whispered. "I just want to help your cubs." The predator tilted her head. Her ears twitched, listening not only to his words, but to his heartbeat. Predators could smell fear. And Daniel had fear, yes. But stronger than that was determination. He looked at her children, not at her teeth. The cubs whimpered again. One gave a weak cough, too fragile even to cry. The mother turned her head, torn between rage and despair. She wanted to drive this human away, but her instincts told her time was short. Finally, with a low rumble, she stepped aside. Not fully, not completely, but just enough to show her cubs. Her eyes never left Daniel. Daniel took a slow breath. His hands shook, but he forced them steady. He moved forward, every step careful, until he knelt beside the cubs. Their fur was hot to the touch, their small bodies weak. He recognized the signs: infection, dehydration, and something worse. If he did not act now, they would not see another sunrise. From his bag, he pulled a small vial of antibiotics and a syringe. The predator's eyes narrowed, her growl rising again. Daniel raised one hand, showing her the medicine. "This will heal them," he said softly, "but I have to use it." For a long, tense moment, the Queen of the Jungle decided his fate. Then, with a deep breath, she lowered her head and nudged one cub gently toward him. It was trust. Fragile, dangerous trust. Daniel injected the medicine carefully, whispering calm words as if the cub could understand. Then he cleaned their wounds, applied ointment, and gave drops of water from his flask. His movements were slow, respectful, never rushed. The predator watched every action, her breath heavy, her body ready to strike if he hurt them. Yet, when Daniel placed his hand gently on the cub's chest and felt the faint but steady rhythm of life, he allowed himself a small smile. "They'll make it," he whispered. The mother growled low, not in anger but in warning. "Do not lie to me." Daniel met her golden eyes without fear. "I promise. I will not let them die." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of the forest. For the first time that night, the silence felt different. Not heavy, not hopeless, but waiting. And then, from the darkness beyond the clearing, another sound echoed. A howl. Deep, hungry, and close. Daniel froze. The predator raised her head, ears sharp. Danger was coming. The howl rolled through the trees like thunder. It was not the voice of the apex predator. It was something else, something that hunted in groups. Daniel's skin prickled. He had grown up hearing stories about the wild packs that roamed these woods. They were not as strong as the apex predator, but together they were merciless. They hunted by smell, by sound, and by blood. The mother predator's lips curled back, showing long fangs. Her ears flattened, her tail lashed side to side. She knew that call. She had fought them before. Tonight, with her cubs weak and a strange human at her side, the odds were against her. Daniel glanced at the cubs. They stirred weakly, the medicine just beginning its work. They could not move. They could not hide. He knew if the pack arrived now, they would not survive. The forest grew tense. Branches cracked in the distance. The sound of paws against the dirt echoed closer. Yellow eyes began to appear between the trees, glowing like tiny lanterns in the dark. The pack was here. There were 6 of them, lean, scarred beasts with long jaws and sharp hunger in their eyes. They circled the clearing, their growls overlapping, their teeth glinting in the moonlight. Daniel's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no way to fight. He looked at the apex predator, who now stood tall in front of her cubs, her massive body a wall of muscle and fury. She roared, the sound splitting the night, but the pack did not retreat. They had smelled weakness. They had smelled blood. One of the beasts lunged forward, testing her. With a lightning-fast swipe of her claw, she struck it down, but another leapt from the other side. She turned, growling, forcing it back. Daniel knelt closer to the cubs, trying to shield them with his own body, even though he knew he was no shield at all. His hands trembled, but he would not move. The pack circled tighter. Their growls grew louder, more confident. They wanted the cubs. They wanted the kill. The apex predator roared again and leapt at one of them, her claws sinking deep. She was fast, powerful, a storm of fur and fury, but there were too many. Another beast darted behind her, aiming straight for the cubs. Daniel's body moved before his mind could. He stood, arms wide, shouting as loud as he could, "Stop!" The pack beast skidded to a halt, startled by the strange sound. For just a second, it hesitated. That second was enough. The mother turned and slammed into it, her jaws snapping shut around its throat. Blood sprayed and the beast fell limp. The others snarled, circling again, but now they knew. This fight would not be easy. Daniel gasped for breath, his voice raw. He looked at the cubs, still alive, still breathing. But the battle was far from over. More growls came from deeper in the forest. The pack was calling for reinforcements. The night grew louder. More howls answered from deep inside the jungle. The pack was calling its brothers. Soon, the clearing would be filled with hunters, and even the apex predator would struggle to hold them back. Daniel's throat was dry, but his eyes stayed fixed on the cubs. He had promised he would not let them die. Now he had to find a way to keep that promise, even if it meant standing against monsters with nothing but his own courage. The apex predator stood tall, her massive body arched, her teeth bared in fury. 3 of the pack circled to the left, 2 to the right. Their eyes gleamed with hunger. They did not just want to eat, they wanted to prove they could challenge the queen. The first attack came suddenly. One beast leapt high, jaws open, but the mother spun and caught it mid-air, throwing it to the ground with a bone-crushing slam. She roared, the sound shaking the trees. But while she fought one, another lunged straight toward the cubs. Daniel moved without thinking. He grabbed a burning branch from the small fire he had lit earlier for light. He swung it wildly, the flames crackling in the air. The beast hissed and pulled back, its yellow eyes narrowing. Fire. Even wild predators feared it. Daniel shouted, waving the branch again. "Stay back!" The cubs whimpered, pressing against his legs. Daniel held his ground, his heart racing, his arms shaking from the weight of fear. But the beast hesitated, unwilling to face the fire. Meanwhile, the apex predator was a storm. Her claws ripped through one attacker, her jaws snapped another's leg, but the pack kept coming. For everyone that fell, another circled closer. Blood dripped from her shoulder where sharp teeth had found flesh. Her breath came fast, but her eyes still burned with fire. Daniel's branch was burning low. Sparks fell, the flame shrinking. He knew it wouldn't last long. The beast growled again, waiting for the fire to die. And then, more howls. Shapes moved between the trees. The pack had doubled. Now 10 glowing eyes stared from the darkness. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at the apex predator, who was bleeding but unbroken. She glanced at him, then at the cubs, and for one brief second, their eyes met. In that silent look he understood. She was asking him to protect what she could not reach. The new attackers rushed forward. The clearing exploded in chaos, teeth snapping, claws slashing, roars echoing. The mother fought like lightning, but she was outnumbered. Daniel held the cubs close, his body a thin shield. He searched his bag desperately. Inside he found something small, a flare, bright red. He had brought it in case he got lost in the jungle. His fingers shook as he pulled it out. The beasts were almost on him. Daniel struck the flare. With a hiss, it burst into blinding red light. The jungle lit up as if fire itself had fallen from the sky. The pack froze. Their growls faltered. Their eyes blinked against the sudden brightness. For the first time that night, the hunters stepped back. But the silence didn't last. One stepped forward again, snarling louder than before. The light had frightened them, but not enough. The battle was far from won. The flare hissed and burned bright in Daniel's hand, painting the jungle in red. Shadows danced on the trees, and the beasts of the pack pulled back, their growls uncertain. For a moment, the clearing was frozen, man, predator, and pack staring at each other under the angry light. The apex predator used that moment. With a roar that shook the leaves loose from the branches, she lunged at the nearest beast. Her claws ripped through its side, and the ground shook with its fall. She was wounded, her shoulder bleeding, but her fury gave her strength. Daniel waved the flare, shouting, trying to make himself larger, louder, more dangerous. "Back! Stay back!" His voice cracked, but his eyes stayed fixed on the glowing beasts. The cubs whimpered behind him, weak, sick, helpless. They were the reason he had to stand. Daniel had healed many animals before, but never had his skills been tested like this. Not only did he have to heal, he had to fight for the chance to heal. The pack growled, circling again. They hated the light, but hunger burned hotter than fear. Slowly, one beast crouched, preparing to spring. Daniel's heart pounded. He had one more flare. One. That would not last forever. He needed another plan. The apex predator roared again, throwing another beast aside, but 2 more leapt on her back. She rolled, thrashing, claws slashing, blood splattered across the rocks. She was strong, but even the queen could not fight forever. Daniel's eyes darted around the clearing. Then he saw it, dry brush piled near the rocks. His mind raced. Fire. Fire could drive them away. With shaking hands, he pulled the second flare from his bag. He struck it, and another red light blazed to life. He tossed it into the dry brush. At first, nothing. Then, flames leapt up, hungry and wild, spreading fast across the clearing's edge. The beasts snarled and backed away, their yellow eyes flickering with fear. The smell of smoke filled the air. Crackling fire lit the night brighter than the moon. For the first time, Daniel saw hesitation in their movements. They wanted the cubs. They wanted blood. But the fire was a wall they dared not cross. The apex predator pushed herself up, her chest heaving. Blood ran down her side, but her eyes glowed fiercer than the flames. She stood beside Daniel now, not in front of him. For a moment, they were not human and beast. They were allies, protectors. The pack paced outside the ring of fire, growling, waiting. They were not gone. They were not beaten. They were patient hunters, and they could wait until the fire died. Daniel looked at the cubs, then at the mother predator. His face was pale, his body trembling, but his voice was steady. "We can't stay here," he whispered. "If the fire burns out, they'll come back." The apex predator lowered her head as if she understood. Her golden eyes burned with the same thought. They had survived the first wave, but survival had only just begun. Deep within an emerald labyrinth where sunlight dared not tread, a clearing stood as a sanctuary of sorts. Here, nestled amongst ancient trees, a different drama was unfolding. A man and a beast, both wounded, both weary, were brought together by fate, circumstance, and most unexpectedly, 3 newborn cubs. Theirs was a story of animosity turned alliance, of mistrust transformed into respect, all set against the backdrop of survival. Our story begins with Adrian, a man who found himself lost in the emerald heart of the jungle. Time had ceased to have meaning here, days melting into nights, the sun and stars becoming blurred disks in a hazy sky. But amidst this green eternity, a flicker of life caught his eye. It was a small clearing bathed in a shaft of sunlight. There, amidst the undergrowth, he found 3 tiger cubs, their plaintive cries echoing in the vast emptiness of the jungle. Though hesitant at first, Adrian's resolve melted away when he saw their distress. Unable to bear their cries, he ventured closer, offering water from his canteen. The cubs lapped it up greedily, their tiny pink tongues darting in and out. Moved by their plight, Adrian decided to stay, transforming the clearing into a makeshift shelter. He gathered leaves and vines, fashioning a temporary den for the cubs. But his solitude was shattered by the emergence of a tigress. She was magnificent, her orange and black stripes blending seamlessly with the shadows and sunlight of the forest. Yet there was a vulnerability about her, a limp and a bandage around one leg, evidence of a recent battle. Despite the inherent danger, Adrian's concern for the cubs drove him to stay. With gentle coaxing, he managed to get the cubs to drink some water, their small bodies trembling with each gulp. He crushed some herbs from his makeshift pharmacy, creating a soothing paste he applied to their bruised paws. The tigress watched him intently, her sharp gaze never leaving him. It was a standoff, man versus wild, each wary of the other's intentions. But as the hours passed, Adrian's dedication started to chip away at the tigress's hostility. Then dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of rose and gold. The clearing was bathed in a soft, ethereal light. Adrian looked at the cubs, their breathing more even now. Their small chests rose and fell rhythmically, a testament to their resilience. The sight filled him with a sense of purpose, making him realize he had to keep them alive for as long as possible. But he knew he wasn't alone. The predator, the tigress, was still there, her presence a constant reminder of the danger that lurked. Throughout the day, she stayed close, her sharp eyes never leaving Adrian or the cubs. She had not attacked, but her mere presence was a threat. It was as if she was assessing him, judging his every move. Adrian understood this unspoken scrutiny, and he didn't flinch. Instead, he continued his work, tending to the cubs with renewed determination. As dusk fell, casting long shadows across the clearing, Adrian noticed a change in the tigress's behavior. Her stiff, almost robotic movements were replaced with a languid grace. Her head, which had been held high, was now lowered, her ears swiveling at the slightest sound. Adrian felt a surge of hope. Could it be possible? Was the tigress calming down? In the quiet of the night, Adrian heard the cubs stir. The largest of the three let out a plaintive cry, his small body shaking. Adrian rushed to his side, gently stroking his back. As the hours passed, the cries grew louder, more insistent. Just as Adrian began to worry, the tigress stirred. She moved closer to the cubs, nudging the crying one with her nose. Her growl rumbled in her chest, not menacing, but low and reassuring. Adrian watched in awe as the tigress took over, her instincts guiding her every move. As the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, Adrian saw the cubs respond to the tigress's touch. They snuggled closer to her, their cries subsiding into soft whimpers. Relief washed over Adrian. The cubs were safe for now, their mother's love providing them with the comfort he could not. The day wore on, and Adrian found himself drawn into the rhythm of the jungle once more. He gathered fruits and herbs, his mind still racing with thoughts of escape. But a nagging worry wouldn't leave him. What would happen when the cubs needed more than his makeshift remedies? How much longer could he truly protect them? It was then that he noticed the tigress studying him intently, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, Adrian understood that their fates were intertwined in a way neither had anticipated. As evening descended, bringing with it a chorus of jungle sounds, Adrian found himself standing in the center of the clearing, facing the tigress. Between them lay the sleeping cubs, their soft breaths a counterpoint to the symphony of the night. Adrian felt a profound shift in the atmosphere, a tangible tension that had been building throughout the day. The tigress was restless, pacing back and forth near the cubs. Her eyes, usually so vibrant, were clouded with worry. Adrian's heart went out to her. He knew instinctively that she was struggling with an internal conflict, her maternal instincts warring with her natural instincts. It was then that the tigress turned towards him, her gaze locking onto his. In that moment, Adrian saw not a predator, but a mother, her vulnerability laid bare. The tigress let out a low growl, more a sigh than a threat. Slowly, she approached Adrian, keeping her movements fluid and graceful, yet charged with an underlying power. Adrian stood his ground, meeting her gaze steadily. He understood that this moment was a turning point, a test of trust between them. As the tigress drew closer, Adrian held out his hands in a gesture of peace. His heart pounded in his chest, not with fear, but with a strange sense of anticipation. The tigress paused, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air. Then she did something that made Adrian gasp. She nudged his hand with her head, her touch surprisingly gentle. In that brief moment, the boundaries that had separated them blurred. Adrian felt a surge of understanding, a connection that transcended their differences. From that day forward, their roles shifted. Adrian became the provider, venturing deeper into the jungle to hunt for food. He returned with fresh meat, laying it at the edge of the clearing. The tigress, in turn, became the teacher, guiding the cubs through their first clumsy steps and teaching them the ways of the wild. Adrian watched them with a mixture of pride and longing. He marveled at their progress, yet couldn't help but feel the pull of his own world. One afternoon, as Adrian sat by the river nursing his wounds, he heard a familiar sound, the cubs' laughter echoing through the trees. He smiled, his heart swelling with affection for these little creatures who had become a part of his life. But the smile faded from his lips as he heard a sudden crash followed by the cubs' frightened cries. He sprang to his feet and ran towards the commotion, his heart pounding with dread. When he reached the spot, he found the cubs huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. The tigress stood protectively in front of them, her fur bristling. Adrian scanned the area, trying to identify the source of the disturbance. Then he saw it, a large male tiger, his stripes a darker shade than the tigress's, his eyes gleaming with predatory intent. Adrian's blood ran cold. It was a rival, an intruder in their territory. Before Adrian could react, the male tiger lunged. The tigress let out a ferocious roar and swiped with her paw. The two tigers clashed, their growls echoing through the trees. Adrian watched in suspense, his gaze flickering between the two fighting animals. Suddenly, the male tiger pinned the tigress to the ground, his sharp teeth bared. Adrian's heart sank. This was not a friendly contest. This was a fight to the death. Driven by instinct and desperation, Adrian stepped into the clearing, waving his arms frantically. The male tiger turned his head, his eyes narrowing at the intrusion. Adrian's heart pounded in his chest as the tiger slowly stood up, his gaze fixed on him. It was a tense standoff, man versus beast, each sizing up the other, each assessing the threat. Adrian stood his ground, trying to project an image of strength and confidence. He knew he had to do something, anything, to distract the tiger and give the tigress a chance to escape. As the first fingers of dawn crept over the horizon, the world began to stir. In the vast wilderness of the Borneo jungle, the tall trees whispered secrets to each other. Insects hummed their ancient songs, and the great apes swung gracefully through the emerald canopy. High above, the sky was a canvas of pink and gold as the sun prepared to rise. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the stillness, a sound that struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it. It was the voice of the tiger, the king of the jungle, and it carried a note of desperation that made the birds fall silent. Deep in the heart of the jungle, hidden amongst the thick undergrowth and giant trees, lay a small clearing. It was here where our story of survival, courage, and an extraordinary bond unfolded. Our hero, Adrian, awakens to the haunting cry of the tiger. His head throbs with the memory of a ferocious bite, a grim reminder of the harrowing ordeal he endured the night before. Bruises mar his arms, and the deep gash on his leg is a testament to the struggle for survival. With a Herculean effort, Adrian pushes himself to his feet. His gaze falls on the three cubs huddled near a large tree, their eyes wide with terror and exhaustion. Each whimper adds a new layer of torment to Adrian's aching heart. Their predicament mirrors his own vulnerability, and the responsibility for their survival settles heavily on his shoulders. In the heart of the jungle, amidst the clash of wills and the desperate search for hope, Adrian finds himself at a crossroads. The wounded tiger growls, a sound that echoes the turmoil in Adrian's soul. Its feral eyes, usually symbols of untamed power, are now clouded with pain and fear. A single mistake during their escape left Adrian injured and separated from help. As darkness falls again, the jungle transforms into a labyrinth of menacing shadows. Alone and injured, Adrian feels the weight of despair settle upon him. The distant calls of nocturnal creatures send shivers down his spine. Yet amidst the chaos, he hears a new sound, the soft whimpers of the cubs, a melody of innocence that stirs his protective instincts. With renewed determination, Adrian navigates the tangled undergrowth, guided by the fading scent of tiger and driven by the desperate meows of the cubs. Thorns tear at his clothes and the uneven terrain strains his injured leg, but he presses on, fueled by an unwavering resolve to reach them before it's too late. Finally, he spots them, crouched beneath a tangle of roots, their eyes wide with terror. Relief washes over Adrian, quickly replaced by a surge of protective instinct. As dawn breaks, bathing the jungle in a soft, ethereal light, Adrian tends to the cubs, his heart breaking at their weakened state. Their eyes, usually sparkling with life, are dull with pain. One whimpers, a heartbreaking sound that pierces through Adrian's weariness. With gentle hands, he offers water and what little food he has left, hoping it will give them the strength to endure just a little while longer. As hours pass, The cubs regain some of their vitality. The smallest one, a female with majestic orange stripes, takes a tentative step forward, her tail held high with a flicker of defiance. Adrian smiles, a ray of hope illuminating his weary face. It's a small victory, yet in the dire circumstances it feels like a triumph. As dusk settles over the jungle, casting long shadows that dance menacingly on the forest floor, the tiger's presence looms over the clearing, stirring memories of the previous night's terrifying encounter. Adrian braces himself, his senses on high alert, ready to protect the cubs from any lurking danger. Suddenly a twig snaps, and his heart pounds in his chest as a pair of glowing eyes emerges from the darkness. His instincts scream danger, and he instinctively shields the cubs, preparing to face whatever threat may come their way. Just then, a sleek black panther bounds into the clearing, its muscles rippling beneath its glossy coat. Its emerald eyes, usually gleaming with predatory charm, now hold a look of urgency. It circles the cubs, a low growl rumbling in its chest, before turning its intense gaze to Adrian. It's a standoff, a tense moment of uncertainty as Adrian tries to decipher the panther's intentions. Will it attack, or will it help? The fate of the cubs hangs in the balance. With a graceful leap, the panther lands beside the cubs, nuzzling them gently, a low purr vibrating in its chest. The tension eases, and Adrian lets out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The panther turns to Adrian, its eyes locking onto his with an intensity that sends shivers down his spine. It's a silent acknowledgement, a recognition of the shared responsibility they both bear. The panther, with a flick of its lithe tail, disappears into the shadows, leaving Adrian with the cubs and the promise of its return. As the first rays of sunlight pierce through the dense canopy, painting the jungle floor in a mosaic of light and shadow, Adrian stirs from his slumber. The events of the previous evening, the desperate struggle for survival, the panther's unexpected arrival, and the faint hope of rescue play like a film in his mind. Stretching, his joints ache, a constant reminder of his ordeal. The soft whimpers of the cubs pull him from his thoughts. Gently, he lifts the smallest cub, a female, into his arms. Her fur is matted and her breathing is shallow, mirroring the fragility of hope in the face of adversity. Time seems to slip away as Adrian tirelessly cares for the cubs. He sings softly, trying to soothe their fears. Hours turn into days, and the jungle, once a menacing adversary, becomes a sanctuary of sorts, sheltering them from the outside world. The soft patter of rain mingles with the cubs' contented purrs, a soothing melody that echoes the resilience of life. One morning, as Adrian ventures out of the shelter of the trees for a brief respite, the jungle unfolds before him in a breathtaking panorama of lush greenery and vibrant life. The towering trees seem to reach towards the heavens, forming a cathedral-like canopy overhead. Through the dappled sunlight, he sees the cubs playfully tumbling over each other, their energy returning. A surge of joy washes over him, tinged with a deep sense of responsibility for their well-being. As days turn into weeks, the cubs grow stronger, their playful antics filling the clearing with laughter and joy. Yet Adrian feels a pang of sadness. The time has come for him to leave, for the cubs to reclaim their place in the wild. With heavy steps, Adrian approaches the edge of the jungle, the familiar world of civilization beckoning beyond the dense foliage. The cubs, sensing his mood, gather close, their eyes reflecting a mixture of happiness and apprehension. From the safety of his home, Adrian keeps watch over the clearing, his heart heavy with a mix of pride and longing. He sees the cubs thriving, their coats gleaming in the sunlight as they stalk through the undergrowth with youthful grace. He watches them grow, their every move a testament to the indomitable spirit of the wild. Yet as the seasons change and the cubs mature, Adrian's concern grows. The playful innocence of youth fades, replaced by the fierce determination of young predators. He sees them testing their strength, honing their skills, preparing for the challenges that lie ahead. One day, Adrian's heart skips a beat as he sees the three cubs emerge from the trees, their eyes gleaming with purpose, their muscles rippling beneath their sleek coats. Beside them walks a magnificent tiger, her presence commanding respect and awe. Adrian recognizes her as the tigress from his dreams, the embodiment of the jungle's untamed spirit. As the years pass, the clearing becomes a hub of activity. The cubs, now strong and graceful, return with their prey, leaving offerings for Adrian as a silent thank you for his past care. Adrian watches, humbled and amazed, as they bring down mighty prey with ease, their movements a symphony of power and precision. But as the cubs come of age, their lives take different paths. The two males venture further into the jungle, their spirits of adventure driving them to explore uncharted territories. Yet the bond they share remains unbroken. They return to the clearing, bringing news of their adventures and reaffirming the ties that bind them. Then there's the female, the smallest of the three, who chooses a different path. She stays close to the tigress, learning the ways of the hunt, growing into a fierce and independent young tigress herself. Adrian watches them all, his heart swelling with pride. As the sun sets on another day, Adrian finds himself drawn to the clearing once more. The jungle is alive with the sounds of the night, the chorus of crickets, the rustling of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, and the distant call of an owl. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a rich, earthy aroma that speaks of life and renewal. Standing at the edge of the clearing, Adrian feels a profound sense of connection to this place, to the wild heart of the jungle, and to the cubs who once depended on him. He remembers the fear, the struggle, but mostly the hope that sustained them through the darkest moments. The cubs, now majestic embodiments of the jungle's untamed spirit, embody that hope. They have thrived, proving that even in the face of adversity, life finds a way to not only survive, but to flourish. As Adrian turns to leave, he casts one last glance at the clearing. The jungle, with its ancient wisdom, has embraced its children, ensuring their survival and their place in the intricate web of life. And Adrian, carrying the echoes of the jungle in his heart, knows that their journey is his journey, that their strength is his strength, and that their story is forever intertwined with the wild symphony of the rainforest.